Hi, good afternoon on our day 96 of our 99 days. Um, I haven't had any new input from your side, so I actually was thinking what to do today, and I I think it's very useful to understand because I talk a lot about energy, but I talk a lot about energy in very different ways. So I talk about energy in the context of it's a vibration that takes a form as soon as the observer creates that form. So when two things come together from the quantum physics, I talk about that everything in our system, our thoughts, our feelings, our behavior are all actually vibrations, and that consists of energy. Our energy and vibration is actually the same, but it's just a different way of stating energy. But there's also the use of energy during your daily day in life. And so the feeling of exhaustion at the end of the day has its cause. And there are theories that say that you have like 100% in the morning, and then depending on what you do during the day, whether it's intense or negative, depends how you end at the day, leaving with like 50, 60, 70, or even less percent of energy. But that's not entirely true, to my opinion, because research has shown that suppressed emotions cost you up to 90% of your energy daily. So that's a very unconscious figure, actually, because you're not aware that you're suppressing emotions all day long. And you're definitely not aware that there are emotions in your system that have been suppressed for many years. Well, you are aware now, more aware than 96 days ago. But still, just the realization that you have blocked energy in your system, in your cells, that actually cost in itself just cost energy. So the fact that by the age of 40 or 50, when we turn into the midlife period, your body gets tired really because it has taken up a lot of emotions that were suppressed, and it's still hanging in your system if you haven't done anything with it, of course. And of course, it depends on how much you have taken in during your life. But on a daily basis, even all the little annoyances, all the little irritations, all the thoughts you have, the negative thoughts or the stories, the narratives that goes on in your mind, if that's emotionally triggered in some sense, it's directly costing you energy. So no wonder after a day at work or a day at home, doesn't really matter, depending on what you're doing when you're at home, you can feel extremely tired by the end of the day. So if you're unaware what you have been going through during the day, and then you're also influenced by the energies of other people, that can make you feel really tired if you don't consciously let go of that energy, then it's no wonder that we feel so exhausted by the end of the day. Or at least a lot of us do. And then we need, of course, to sleep in order to restore that energy. But we never really get to the 100% as long as we are still having these old emotions in our system. So besides the fact that waking up is a very liberating and freeing and happy process eventually, I mean, that's the outcome of it, by rising your consciousness, it's also an absolute necessity to keep your body healthy and to keep energized. And I know from people who are going through this journey intensely in a positive way, in the sense that they are really enlightened being almost, they hardly ever sleep. They only need like 2 or 3 hours, perhaps 4 hours a night, because during the day their body doesn't consume so much energy, because they are literally turning into light bodies. And actually, that's what we ultimately are if we are releasing all the blocked emotions and all the blocked energy from our system. we are a light body, where actually just everything that happens during the day doesn't stick because we're not triggered anymore. Or when we're triggered, we easily let go of it. So understanding this process of what costs so much energy, I think helps to realize that it's even more important to become so aware what actually is happening when something happens in your daily life. A little post you read on Facebook, or someone says something to you, or you read the news, or you see a movie, which is very intense, because there's a lot of tensions in movies as well. And that's draining. It's really draining your energy. And if you're unaware, you can, and if you are like not in tune with your body, you don't even notice that it's draining. You might still feel tired, but I know people in my friend groups who manage to actually still have a lot of energy, even though their life is very stressful. But they can manage to just suppress that because they don't really feel it directly. Eventually, they will get ill, or during their year, they often have like extreme back pains or knee pains, or they all of a sudden are hit with a flu, or they get a very strong infection all of a sudden. So their body does give the signals, but they are very strong in suppressing those signals during the daily life. And another thing with emotions is, if you are feeling this disbalance in emotion because something happens, and you're not open to expressing this feeling to yourself in the first place, you don't always have to express it to someone else, but at least acknowledge it to yourself, then this suppression of emotions costs you a lot of energy as well. The resistance costs you more energy than the emotion itself. So anything you resist costs energy extra, additional to already the fact that you have a suppressed emotion. So it's really, really important to get very aware of what's happening in our system at every little detail, and release it as soon as you feel it. Acknowledge it and release it. And if you don't know how to release it, or that feels complicated, at least acknowledge what's happening, and by taking deep breath consciously in that moment helps already a lot in releasing. So that will probably gain you a lot of energy during your day already. So there are a few points that are really, really important here. Not taking on the emotions personally. So everything you feel during the day, whether it's yours, whether it's a thought of your colleague, whether it's a thought of your partner, whether it's a thought of a friend who you're having dinner with, or whether it's his or her energy, which is practically the same. If you feel the shift within yourself, don't take that personally. Just release it in the sense that, okay, it's not mine. I use that sentence, it's not mine, a lot to tell myself not to take it personal. And then take deep breaths in order to give space actually in your body to that, so that emotion can be released again. And we know, of course, the difference between the strong emotions around lack beliefs, but this is also about the little emotions, little in the sense that like they seem irrelevant during the day, but they cost you a lot of energy. So, and the thought of something that annoys you, so the narrative in your head or the actual experience, is exactly the same for your body. I think I expressed that before, but I just want to point it out again, going towards the end of these 99 days, that it really is about this detailed awareness, and also the fact that thoughts are the same to your system as a real experience. And in context to what I'm sharing here today, that it costs so much energy on your system, it's even more important to become so aware of your thoughts. So overthinking things doesn't really help. And yesterday I was in contact with a new Facebook friend, so to say, because we wanted to share on a similar course we are following. And she wanted to guide me through processes of releasing a limiting belief. So I took my limiting belief as the for this exercise. And what I noticed actually, that the emotion of my limiting belief, I'm not being heard, what I've said before, and this was about me in my childhood just being not being able to speak up or even share myself. Anyway, that process in itself showed emotions for myself. I could really feel the intense emotions and sadness around me as a little one. But all the new perspectives on that situation are already very clear to me. So it's very interesting that to me it felt like going back into that story of how it used to be in the past didn't really help me a lot. It just brought back emotions, which in itself is still relevant. But just digging into seeing new perspectives didn't feel so relevant. It felt more relevant to me to just consciously release the emotion that came up, the sadness and the grief for myself, for my little self in this case. So I was even more convinced by that experience that getting out of any story about a past experience is more useful and focusing on releasing the energy than I already thought it was. And of course, new perspectives on the same situation help even to have access to that emotion. That's where it really helps, because you really feel like this old pain, but then you need something to make your mind understand what actually happened and how you actually looked at it in the wrong way. But then there it stops. And then it really is like just, okay, it comes up now. And for whatever reason, doesn't really matter. And for whatever reason it happened once, doesn't really matter. But this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm releasing. And that's, I think, very helpful in staying energized during the day. And for me, it's the same with watching series on Netflix or movies that are a little bit more, show more tension, like detectives or even more intense movies. I really get drained after that, watching that. And when I do it very consciously and like tell myself it's just a story, I can keep my energy at a certain level. But if I'm doing it unconsciously and completely caught up by the movie, I'm completely drained afterwards. So that also proves to me, and that's of course not the case for everyone, because not everyone is experiencing it so consciously. But in a sense, it is the case for everyone, because it might happen in your system anyway. So it's the check is it really not something that you relate to emotionally when you see something or something happens to you, or are you suppressing something that you don't feel, that doesn't even show up in you? And the only way to answer that question is to become more a feeling person. And in every person on earth is a natural feeling person. We're not a thinking person. We are a feeling human being. That's where everything comes in first. And our mind has taken over, we know that. But that's not our natural state. So that's the same as with animals. They sense everything. They hear and they sense. But they mostly sense. And they're very good in releasing attention. Very good in releasing it immediately. When an animal is being chased after by a bigger animal, it runs, obviously, the fight-flight reaction. And then after that, you see this animal shiver again to just release this tension, and then goes back to normal life. And that's actually the same process that we should do. So actually, we should all just shiver after tension and release. But I think taking deep breaths is a lot more easier and less obvious. But again, movement during daily work is very good for the system as well. So become more aware of what happens to your levels of energy during the day and how you can get more energized by not letting you get drained by your circumstances, or not by letting you get drained by your own thoughts. And just by activating or increasing that sensitivity, I think it will be much more useful in making your life more light than going through all these intense lack beliefs before they even appear in your life. Of course, when they appear, you have to deal with it. But as long as they don't appear in your life, apparently it's not necessary to deal with it. So in other words, even though all these old emotions are stored in your body, you can only deal with it when it comes up. I mean, of course, it helps to just meditate because it clears your body as well. That's really helpful on a deep conscious level, to really go into stillness more often. And stillness, also stillness in the mind. That's definitely extremely useful to even work on old emotions that you're not aware of. So, yeah, the main message is just become very aware of what's happening in your system during the day. Okay, well, we have another 3 sessions. Yes, Monday is the last one. So any burning questions, let me know. And, well, I'll see you back tomorrow. Okay, thanks. Bye.